All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kelly Coulthard, and I am a consultant with the Marshfield Clinic Health System and the Wisconsin After School Network. I will be moderating today's Wisconsin After School Network Regional Learning Collaborative along with Quinn Wilder. We are pleased to be offering this learning collaborative today, focusing on cultivating staff with a healthy organizational culture in partnership with the Department of Children and Families. But before we get started, before we jump in, just a few housekeeping items before we start. Please keep your microphones on mute. If you have any questions, please make sure you put them into the chat, and then we will answer them as we go along, or wait until the end if that is more appropriate. But also, this presentation is being recorded, and it's going to be uploaded to our WAN YouTube channel, and we will let you know how to find that in a second. All right, as we're adding more people here, I'm going to share my screen so we can get started. All right, hopefully everybody can see that. If I can get a thumbs up from somebody, that would be great. Preferably somebody I can see, of course,
You're good, Kelly.
Thank you. Wonderful. Okay, so today we are doing cultivating staff with a healthy organizational culture. What is our plan for the day? We have about an hour and 15 minutes together. Our plan for the day is we're going to talk a little bit about our why. So what is this regional collaborative? What is this whole project? But then we're going to really jump in and talk about voices from the field. And we have an amazing panel of out of school time partners that we have some questions that we pose to them, and gonna see if you have any questions for them as well. And then we have time today to talk a little bit more in our regions and kind of explain what that all is. So that is kind of what we're going to do. But before we get started, I have a bunch of faces on this screen today that I want to introduce. So if you're here, if you could give a little wave. So first, I'd like to introduce Kathy Shader. She's going to be doing the northeastern region of this collaborative. I have Rachel, who is kind of helping with the western and northern section. You can see her there. We have Trevor. I think Trevor, yep, there he is. He is also going to be assisting with the western and northern regions. And we also have Sarah Bannert, who is not here today. She is out on maternity leave, so she'll be back in March, and she will also be helping with the western and northern region. And myself, Kelly Coulthard, I get to do the southern region. But then lastly, we have Quinn Wilder here. He is going to facilitate the southeastern region, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about this project and how it started, and the partnership between Wisconsin After School Network and the Department of Children and Family Services. So take it away, Quinn.
All right, thanks, Kelly. So the Wisconsin Department of Children and Families Division of Early Care and Education was awarded funding through the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, called ARPA, to provide training to out-of-school programs throughout the state. And the Wisconsin After School Network, for those who aren't familiar, we are the state affiliate of the national 50-state after-school network that works with local providers and policymakers to create a sustainable structure of high-quality after-school and expanded learning programs in Wisconsin. So the Wisconsin After School Network, through a partnership with DCF, is offering this learning collaborative to tackle the complex issues that go into hiring, training, and retaining staff. A huge issue right now, as I'm sure you all are well aware. This is a statewide initiative that will start with foundational sessions to bring the issues into focus, followed by regional cohort sessions that will take the deeper dive into your local area. The third component of the Learning Collaborative is direct one-on-one support, or TA, directed to your specific situation and questions. These sessions will provide you an opportunity to look behind your day-to-day and develop strategies to enhance your hiring and retention of staff, but also to see how they are intertwined with your program quality. During the coming year, as a Learning Collaborative, you have the opportunity to develop supportive relationships with other providers, receive personal technical support, and dive deeper to make lasting long-term changes within your organization. How does that sound?
That sounds great, Quinn. Thank you. All right. Well, enough of the introductions. We can do a little bit more deep dive into our different regions. But we want to know who everybody is on this call. We've had a lot of people sign up, so we're very excited to meet you a little bit more. We are not going to go around and introduce everybody because that would take way too long. But so instead, we're going to do a Menti. If you have never used Menti before, you can do it on your phone. You could pull up a separate screen. But we ask that you could either use the QR code and open your camera and take a picture of the QR code, and that will take you to this presentation. And we have some polls, and we have a map that we would like you to kind of put where you are located. If the QR code does not work, you can type in menti, menti.com, and enter that code, 74644091. And I love that I'm seeing hearts, so thank you so much for responding. So when you get to that screen, you probably will be seeing these instructions. And if I could have someone from the clinic, if you could pop that into the chat just to make sure that we have the Menti in there and the code just in case people who are arriving late so they can join us. That would be very helpful. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to move on. And if you have any questions, let us know. Throw it in the chat. We will answer that if you need any assistance with the Menti. All right, so now, who is everybody? Where is everybody located? So you should be able to take your device, and there should be little dots, and you can put on what part of the state you are located in. Oh, and you can hopefully see it on your screen. This is cool. Oh, look at this. We're all over the place. I love it. Wow. So you can see as you're looking on the map as to where everyone's kind of popping up, the different regions, and we'll have a better breakdown of that a little bit later so you can see exactly what counties. But we have a good chunk, it looks like, from my southern region, so that's exciting. Yeah, love it. Rachel, how many people do we have on the call? How many people should I be waiting for to be answering?
Up to 101, Kelly.
That's
I'm
amazing.
not sure how many logged on, but that's our number of registrants.
That's amazing.
There's 46 on the call right now.
I love it. Thank you, Jen. All over the place. So far, it looks like maybe someone from Washburn is the maybe most northern, from me anyway. That's awesome. All right, we'll give it a couple more seconds to put in. And if you have any questions about it, if it's not working for you, you can also throw it in the chat. We can see it where you're from. But all right, so it looks like we have a good representation from all over the place. So now I get to throw it to Kathy Shader, the one, the only, and she's gonna jump into a little bit more about finding out who we are and asking you some targeted questions so we can do a good job of making sure that we're giving you everything you want out of this regional collaborative.
Yeah,
Can
super.
I get the Menti number and the code again, because I don't have more than one phone to scan the QR code.
Absolutely, we'll do that.
Sorry, I'm not really familiar with WebEx as much as I am Zoom, so I can't see the chat or anything.
All right, well, thank you for letting us know. We'll make sure that we get you in on the poll, and this will be also sent out later at another time as well. All right, go ahead, Kathy.
Super. Well, you guys are already on top of it because I see this is like such cool technology. I love this, Kelly. This was such a great suggestion. So we're asking you which region you are in. Now, part of this is so that we can become a little more familiar with you, and we will towards the end of the session today as we break into regional groups. But it's also helpful to kind of see where everybody is, and so that you're familiar with which region you are in. And if you have no idea, that's okay. Let us know. We're kind of hoping the color-coded map is letting us do that. So if you want to pop in, so far no one said I have no idea. So these regions have been designated based on clearly where you are, and we've been facilitating this process of regional COPs for a while, for I think, Quinn, like 10 years or so, and if not more. This is just a newer way of doing it, and so I love just seeing that. And again, you can just click on, in fact, I will do it here. I got to pick out where I'm at. And the region that I'm in is not the region I'm facilitating, so that's okay too. So this is really great. And so we're going to move on. Kelly talks a lot about what's your why. You're going to hear that from all of us that are facilitating. And so we kind of want to get just a sense from you of like, why do you do this work? And if you've got an other, you can throw that in there. Kelly, I'm not familiar enough if they can actually pop that in the chat or not, if they can pop an other in there. I don't know that you can. But you can pop it in our chat on the screen. So if you have an other based on what's in here, like it's a job that fits your schedule, you just love working with kids, you want to make a difference in the lives of kids, or you've had a great experience as a kid in after school, or if you've got an other, throw it in the chat, because we all do this work for a variety of reasons. My guess is you're picking your top choice, but it's not your only reason that you do this work with kids. So super. If you've got the other, and I see that popping in right now, feel free to throw that in the chat as well, and we can kind of take a peek at that. Part of that helps us just kind of get a sense of where you all are as we as facilitators work together. And this isn't just the only time we're meeting with you. So this is an ongoing thing over the course of the year, as Quinn has mentioned. So we will continue to do that work. So excellent responses. And we're going to pop to the last question. This is really focused on, we're talking about staffing. It is really like the biggest topic in after school, out of school time, and even in K-12, right? So it's like, what is your top area of interest for you related to staffing? And so this also gives us a better sense of kind of where the group is and how we continue to do our work that best suits your needs. And so we're just trying to get recruiting, where are they hiding? Yeah, that's a great question. So we've got retention, staff training, coaching and mentoring, incentives, keeping staff engaged. That's great. Some really good responses. We love your interaction with this, and it just gives us, again, some additional feedback on which to help move the work forward. What you'll find about these regional COPs is that we're pretty fluid in how we operate. So if we get a hot topic that pops in another month or two, we're going to probably address it as best we can if that is of interest to you. So that's our goal. Kelly, I'll kick that back to you.
Well, thank you so much, Kathy. I'm going to leave this up for just a few more seconds so that you can keep answering this question. As we are, as we're having conversations in our regions, if you're like, I wasn't able to respond, I really want to talk about self-care and wellness. We'll definitely put that on our radar as well. All right, so now I'm going to kick it over to Quinn, who's going to talk to us about why we're really here today. That's so important, is talk about some amazing people doing some great work in the field.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. So we have in our group here today 3 panelists, and we're going to ask a series of questions. And then after we have that discussion, maybe after about 20-25 minutes, we're going to open it up to everybody to see if there are any additional things that anyone would like to ask the whole panel or any individuals on the panel. But let's start out. Let's see if we can locate Abby Klein. Hey, Abby.
Good morning.
Oh, there you are. Can you wave your hand for everybody? Thank you. All right. Everyone should hopefully be able to see Abby there. So Abby Klein is at the YMCA of Northwoods. And after I ask the first questions, if you could also just briefly introduce yourself to start, I think with a little more detail than I have, that would be great. And then how about Corey Zolozowski? Everyone see Corey waving there? She's from the Northwoods Boys and Girls Club. And then Lisa Gitz. Lisa, can you wave? Where's Lisa? Anyone see Lisa? I'm not seeing anybody waving. Anybody? Is Lisa here? Anyone seeing anything?
Seen her either, Quinn.
Okay, thanks. All right, well, hopefully Lisa is trying to get here. Lisa's from After School Clubs, Inc. So I guess we have two panel members right now. So let's start out with the first question, which is, tell us about staffing in your program. How many staff are there? What is retention like based on the season or the program that you have? And could we start with Abby?
Sure. So I am the senior school age director at the YMCA of the Northwoods up in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. Um, in my role at the Y, I don't oversee just our before and after school programs. I also oversee our drop-in childcare and our youth enrichment director, who is in charge of all of our youth and teen programs, including extra programs like cooking skills or arts and crafts or STEM club, and our Y nights or teen nights with additional like our leaders club and things like that. So I have a wide kind of umbrella that we operate with. So staffing in my program looks very different in all of the different areas that I oversee. Primarily in our before and after school program that we run during the school year, I have 5 staff right now. During summer, I can have up to 16 or 20 staff, so it fluctuates a lot. And retention is pretty good unless they are going away for college, because we only have a tech college in town, not a UW. And so if they are going to a UW and traveling back to like Green Bay or something like that, I don't get to keep them during the school year. But I do have a lot of staff that return year after year for summer camp, for their breaks between semesters. Um, so retention's pretty good.
That sounds good. You know, I think I would like to just follow up with the next question with you, Abby, so we kind of get that continuity, and then I'll go over to Corey and ask the
Sure.
same questions. Can we do it like that, everyone? It seems like that might be a little easier to follow. Okay. So my next question for you, Abby, is what are the top 3 things that you do to support staff well-being and job satisfaction?
So the top 3 things I do is I am big on authentic relationships. Um, I let them know who I truly am, even when I'm frustrated, um, so that they are, we have a bond, and it's more about the rapport and the relationship we have together that helps us be able to do the work that we do and be able to get through the tough times and celebrate all of the good times, than that I'm always seen as their boss. Like I will be their boss when I need to be their boss, but otherwise I'm their coach, I'm their role model. We're a team and we operate together. And if there's like, we work with youth, we know that chaos happens where, you know, this kid's over here puking and this parent needs a phone call and there's just a bunch of stuff going on. I don't like to do the you do this, you do that type of thing, and then I just kind of sit back and supervise. I like to jump in, and that we're all going to do this, we're all going to get it done, and have that same expectation of them that we're all going to get in there, we're going to get it done, we're going to work together, and then at the end we're going to celebrate that we did it together and talk about whatever difficulties arose during it so that hopefully we can learn and grow from it. So yeah, my big thing is the authentic relationships. Kind of the second thing would be like we're getting in there, we're all going to do it together. And then my third thing that I really like to focus on with job satisfaction and staff well-being is that yes, we all have our work life and our personal lives, and it's easy to try to be like your personal life needs to stay at home. But reality is when something big is happening, that is really challenging to leave your personal life at home or your work life at work. And so to have an open door policy where they can come and talk to me about it and there's no judgment, it's a safe space. If they need to vent, that's fine. If they need advice, that's fine. If they need to be connected with resources, that I'm able to do that, but that they can come to me with whatever is going on and know that it's judgment free, it's safe, and I'm gonna help them if I can.
Wow, that is fantastic, Abby. Thank you so much. My next question is, what are some concrete examples of practices you do on a regular basis to create a sense of belonging and safety? And I think some of your previous question answer might relate to that, but maybe there's some additional stuff.
I think the only additional thing I would really like add in there is that it starts at the interview process.
Mm.
When we're first interviewing them and getting them in the door, that's when you want to start setting that foundation of not only are you interviewing them to see if they're a great fit for your program, but they're also interviewing you to see if you are a great fit for them, because they're going to end up spending a lot of time here. And you're going to ask a lot out of them. So they need to be comfortable and confident in that it's going to work for them as well. And kind of setting that, like, we're going to, wherever their skills are at, that's going to be where we start. And we're going to build from there and help them grow to become great after school teachers or professional role models, or however you want to label them. Along with that, I encourage them, if they've got an idea that they want to do with the kids, like if they want, I had some staff last summer, they want to play Muddy Gaga. Yeah, let's do it. Like, I'm not going to say no. And unless it's a big safety risk or there's a licensing reason we can't do something, or it's going to cost a whole lot of money and that's an irresponsible decision for us to make financially, I'm going to say, okay, figure it out. If you want to do it, come up with a plan. Let's work through it. Let's do it. And I try to honor their ideas and their investments in the program.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. Thank you. And the next question is, how do you incorporate staff voice in your program? Which you all, again, kind of probably just answered a bit, but maybe there's something additional. How do you know they feel like their voice matters?
The big thing is at weekly meetings or monthly meetings during the school year, that everybody has that opportunity to have their voice heard, and that we don't shut it down. So even if you always get like the drama between two staff, they don't like each other, they're at each other's throats, eye rolling is not okay. It's not okay to sit there and ignore each other. It's not okay to turn a cold shoulder. We're a community and a family, and it's okay to have disagreements, but everybody's voice matters, and everybody needs to be able to feel heard and feel like they belong, even if we don't necessarily get along. I'm not asking them to be friends. I'm asking them to be coworkers.
Sounds good. And then the last question, how important is support from supervisors? What does supervisor support look like? And how do you evaluate or gauge whether staff are getting sufficient support?
I believe that support from supervisors is incredibly important. When I look back at any of the jobs I've had, I can tell that my job satisfaction is greater when I feel supported from my supervisors, and I perform better. So I try to make sure that my staff feel supported so that they can perform better. And I try to use the things that I've learned from the great supervisors I've had in my life with my staff, like implement those things that I liked most to practice with my staff. Um, I try to gauge how they're doing based on like what they need from me based on their moods and what I'm hearing and seeing in their performances, and then asking straight out, like, let me know if I'm too much, if you need more from me, and let me know if you want more professional development, or you're like, hey, Abby, I've got this. Like, open communication and honesty is going to be the best way that we can figure out what it is they need and what it is they maybe don't need. I do want to start doing a staff survey, but I haven't found the right way to do it yet, because I don't want it to feel like it's just one more thing they have to do. I want it to feel like a really important part of our relationship and our staff engagement. And so I haven't found the right fit for me yet, but that is one way that I am continuing to grow in my supervising skills and my program evaluation stuff.
Well, I can't wait to hear what you end up landing on for that, Abby. Thanks for answering all those questions. And I'm sure a lot of people are storing up some questions. Keep doing that. We're going to switch over. And I think we did get Lisa, but Lisa can observe Corey going through answering these questions while she gets set up here. So Corey, are you ready?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, yes. And I'm just going to ask you the same questions, one set at a time. So the first was, can you tell us something about staffing? Tell us about staffing in your program, and how many staff are there? What is retention like based on the season or the program?
Yeah, so my name is Corey Zelzowski. I'm the Director of Operations for the Boys and Girls Clubs of the Northwoods. We have 3 sites. We have 2 sites in Anago, and then we have a site in Rhinelander. We currently hover between 25 and 30 staff if we're fully staffed. We have some open positions right now. And then I apologize. That's 10 full-time staff and 12 part-time staff. And then we add about 10 to 15 staff every summer. Retention is really good for us. Like Abby said, summer months, we hire college kids who are coming back for college and wanting to work with youth in our community. And we typically only have to hire 1 to 2 new summer staff that aren't returning every summer. They mainly continue to return until they've graduated from college and go off into their careers. I will say the biggest challenge for us currently with staffing is, like Abby said, we don't have a UW college in our community, so we lose those really great staff during the summer. And we're relying heavily currently on our high school students to help run our program.
There's some nice little recruitment tips there. Thanks, Corey. So the second question, what are the top 3 things you do to support staff well-being and job satisfaction?
It's funny, when I was looking at this question and I was starting to brainstorm ideas, I was really thinking about the fact that a lot of the things I do with my staff are what I'm encouraging my staff to do with our youth, like positive youth development. I'm also doing with our staff. So one thing is connecting and building a solid relationship. I want to know why our staff are working here. What lights them up? What excites them about coming to work every single day? And I always tell our staff, when the why or when the how becomes hard, we have to remember our why. So I want to know every single staff member's why, so that when I see they're having a hard day, I have the tools and the coaching ability, the tools to coach them to keep going forward. So I try and build authentic relationships and connect with them, and then making sure that they are all know their role and know their value within the club. It's easy to think as a part-timer that, you're just showing up, doing your job and moving on. But I want every single person, from our maintenance people, our cooks, our custodians, to understand that position supports a bigger mission. And that starts right away with our training and our onboarding process. If our staff don't know how to do their job and how to do their job well and feel confident in it, they're not going to want to stay. If they're dealing with a kid who's escalated and they don't understand the steps to de-escalate that child, then it's easy to get frustrated and go home and be done with that. So I really took over our onboarding process and revamped that to make sure that we have targeted trainings for our staff, the trainings that they're asking for, the trainings that they need, because we know that working with youth day in and day out can be a challenge. And if you don't feel confident, our kids can smell that from a mile away. They know when you're not confident. So I make sure that our staff have not only onboarding, but we do a monthly training every single month where we shut down the club and we ask our staff what they're looking for. What are their needs? What are we seeing? What training do we need to have? And then I'm always coaching and giving feedback and encouraging growth. We see a lot of people where this is, their first job out of college or a job to gain experience. And although it's hard seeing those college kids leave us, I'm extremely happy when I get to write a letter of recommendation. I get to be a reference. Last summer, I helped 2 of our college kids negotiate salaries and teaching. And it was just an amazing opportunity to see them grow in their positions and in their life. And then the last thing is, we are big on having fun. If we're not having fun, our kids aren't having fun. We do not take ourselves too seriously here. I will tell you that I am surprised nobody has popped in my office and tried to scare me. We have prank wars going all the time at our organization when our kids aren't here, because it is, it gets to be heavy. It gets to be a lot working with kiddos. We are day in and day out with these kids, and sometimes we're seeing them more than their families. And sometimes we're the ones bearing all of their stuff. And so we gotta let that go. So we have a prank going on. It's who can actually scare the person the best. And so if we can hear you getting scared in our office, we know that somebody really rocked that. So we are all big about fun and laughing and not taking ourselves too seriously here.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you for that. The next question, what are some concrete examples of practices you do on a regular basis to create a sense of belonging and safety? And again, I think you already answered some of that. Maybe you have some more examples or details that you could add.
Yeah, Yeah, so for our interviewing process, I revamped our interviewing process. Abby talked about this. All of our interview questions are connected to our values. And so, for example, like fun is one of our values, not taking ourselves too seriously. So I ask an interview question that is out of the box, and I brought this to our organization, and it's, if you could be any kind of shoe, what would you be and why? You'd be surprised at the answers I get, but it really gives me a sense of who you are and if you're able to laugh at yourself and roll with the punches. It seems weird, but I just love that question. It gives me a glimpse of, are you fun? Are you able to, think on your feet? And can you laugh at yourself? Then our onboarding process is really in depth, and it's a combination of training that's related to what our organization is about, and then also coaching and mentoring. I do monthly staff surveys that Abby talked about, and there's a couple questions in there that I asked, like, what made you smile today, or what made you smile this week? I want to know what is making our staff smile. What excites them about coming to work? Do they feel like they have enough training to do their job? What training do they like? And then we do recognition a lot. So I write a lot of I'm grateful for you cards, thank you cards. I call it Thankful Thursday. So I try and write 2 cards to 2 different staff every Thursday to let them know I'm thankful for them. We have a staff member of the month. We do, like I said, we do these monthly staff trainings where we're closed 1 day a month, and we just have the whole day off from kiddos. And then we just created this, it's called Culture of Well-Being, self-care and well-being policy. So all of our staff will get 2 mental health days per year paid. There's no questions asked. They just let us know, hey, I need a mental health day. They also get a paid day off for their birthday. And then we are allowing staff to get 2 hours, full-time staff, 2 hours per month of self-care. And so we're not asking what that self-care is. We're just wanting you to let us know if you need to go home and take a nap, if you need to go for a walk, get a massage. So we have 2 hours of paid self-care it does need to be approved, and then we are constantly encouraging our staff to be up and moving. So walking meetings, being out for lunch, not sitting in front of your desk, eating at your computer. Those are all things that I think we get stuck doing, because as many of you know, working in this field, we are overloaded with all the things that we need to do. We're all probably filling 4 positions as one person. And so we need to take a step away and recharge.
Thanks, Corey. And so how do you incorporate staff voice in your program? How do you know staff feel like their voice matters?
That's a great question. I do a monthly staff survey, and then I am out. So as a supervisor, I think as a supervisor and somebody who's really, bogged down in the policies and the safety, and that's my role, it's really easy for me to get stuck up in my office working on the things. But I try and spend at least 30 minutes to an hour out in programming every single day. I'm not perfect at it. By all means, I'm not perfect at it, but I just try and get out there and ask our staff, like, what's going on? What are you seeing? How can I support you? What training do you need? We also create a monthly or a seasonally, program schedule, and then we allow our staff to plan the programs within those, or plan the activities within those programs. So we're telling them what programs, quote unquote, to run, but they get to pick the activities that they're doing.
That's great. And the last question, how important is support from supervisors? What does supervisor support look like? And how do you evaluate or gauge whether staff are getting sufficient support?
It's a great question. I think a supervisor is somebody who truly cares about you and values you and your contributions to the organization. I think as a supervisor, it's important to recognize everybody's strengths within your organization and how those strengths come together to fuel the overall mission and reach your goals and your missions of your organization. I also think as a supervisor, it's important to know when to step in and help the staff that you supervise, but also know when you need to challenge them to grow. I think so often we get stuck in our comfort zones of what we're currently doing, that we're not willing to, step past that. And so we need a supervisor who knows us well enough to say, hey, look, I understand this is challenging for you, but I believe in you and I know you could do it. I know you have the capabilities and are able to push yourself to do this. And then to evaluate if staff are getting sufficient support. I check in with everybody I supervise weekly, and then I make it a mission to check in with not the people who I directly supervise, but who they supervise once a month. And my first question that I always ask them is, what excites you about coming to work? What excites you about your job? Because we all know in this field, especially if you work in nonprofit, we're doing lots of things that we probably don't like doing. That's just the nature of working with kids, nonprofit work. So there are going to be things we don't like to do. So I want to know what excites them and how can I get them to be doing more of that? How can I bring more of that into their role? If they really, like, I have somebody who really loves organization and color coding, like, more power to you. That's not my thing. I am a fly by the seat of my pants kind of girl. But if that's your thing, I'm going to find a way to get more organization and color coding into your role. You want to go organize all the program materials, go for it. You want to do that, that's on, we'll give you an hour to go do that. And then there's other people who really enjoy art, but they don't get to run art as much just based off of our program schedule. So how do we incorporate art into some of the other programs that they're running? Did I answer?
Awesome. Yes, thank you. You did. Thanks a lot, Corey. And we are going to jump right over. Keep saving up your questions, everybody, because we're going to have an open Q&A after this. But we now, I believe, have Lisa. Lisa, correct? Is Lisa here? She is. Okay, I'm sorry. I can't see anything. So, okay, Lisa, can you hear me?
Yes, I just needed to
All right,
mute
awesome.
myself.
So I'm
Sorry.
oh, there you are. Hey, Lisa. Okay, so if you could, I'm going to ask you the first question. If you could just briefly introduce yourself and then start with answering the first one, and we'll go through just like we just did with Corey. So the
Sure.
first question is, can you tell us about staffing in your program? How many staff are there, and what is retention like based on the season or the program?
Yes. My name is Lisa Gitz. I'm the Executive Director of After School Clubs in Oregon. And currently I have 18 staff, 5 of them being full-time. And then for the summertime, we typically we usually have about 30 staff total. And the great thing about us is that we've had some of our staff members for 20 and 27 years. It's exceptional because we have a lot of male figures too, who give a little bit of a different flavor for our children, which is awesome. Our biggest thing is because of retention, we have yes, the university that's close to us, but we also have the Oregon High School, and they have assistant teacher and teacher classes, and many of those students then come to us after school from about 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock. We even have some of those students who become educators in the school district here, and then they come back with us for the summer session. So it's a win-win situation, and when it's a positive thing too that some of those students were students with us at ASC when they were little, then went to school and then came back, and then now also have some of their children with us too. So we've gone full circle, which is an exceptional highlight for us.
Thank you, Lisa. And what are the top 3 things you do to support staff well-being and job satisfaction?
I think our biggest thing is relationships. Because many of our staff members have been students and so forth, we know the ins and outs. And I think a big thing is that we're just like many of the other people have said, it's the flexibility, making sure that you know the ins and outs of our staff members. We've had staff members who have lost family members, staff members who have lost a house because of a fire and so forth. We know those ins and outs, and we actually have a very supportive board who allows us to be able to take funds out to be able to serve our families with losing a house, tuition, making sure that our staff members are well valued, and that's what our staff members think. Because we take that initiative and being able to know the ins and outs of our staff, they find value there. And the last thing is, big thing is communication. When we see somebody that's not, that just isn't themselves, and being able to not to pry, but to have them understand that we're here for them. So we often get emails, text messages throughout the night of just, you know what, they just needed a confidant to be able to help them.
Thanks, Lisa. And the next is, what are some concrete examples of practices you do on a regular basis to create a sense of belonging and safety?
I think through COVID and so forth too, for safety reasons, our PPP loans helped a great deal. The DCF funds have greatly helped, so that again, because everything is so more expensive and so forth too, that's been a helpful tool. But also having again having our staff members being that positive voice. We have one of our staff members on our board, to be able to have that positive voice for our staff members, and having our staff members go to that person, but also come to the management team. It just Again, we're building on those relationships. We treat people how we want to be treated too, and so that's been a huge thing of that sense of belonging. Having people know that, you know what, we may not always agree on things, but we're here to solve together. That teamwork is a true presence in our facility. And we as management team are always in everybody's classrooms. We have one site we typically have 180 kids, but right now we only have about 142 because we're still in the COVID of sanitizing everything too, so that our staff, our children, and our families see us all working cohesively together. So we talk always about being co-teachers and being a co-team.
Yeah. Thanks, Lisa. Second to last set of questions. How do you incorporate staff voice in your program? How do you know they feel like their voice matters?
And we too do surveys continually. We have Wednesdays, or I should say every day, we have 45 minutes of planning with our staff members, because I'm based out of a school and we don't typically start a program till about 2:45. We have a morning program too, but then we have an afternoon program. And that's our time to be able to talk with everybody. Being able to sit at one large table and be able to, hey, what's the plan of attack today, or what is somebody having a difficult time with, so that everybody sees each other as equals. That's a huge thing, and especially with our staff member on the board too, having that positive voice to be able to bring to the table at all points in time. And if they don't feel comfortable with one member of the management team, going to their counterparts and being able to spearhead something has been very positive.
Yeah. And the last one, how important is support from supervisors? What does supervisor support look like? How do you evaluate or gauge whether staff are getting sufficient support?
We too do a annual, when we do up our reviews and so forth. We always do a self review on, what are positive things that are happening. What kind of skills do you want? And we as supervisors, I have myself as the executive director. I have a director, as well as an assistant director, and somebody is always there for our staff members. And everybody, just like other relationships, some people go to one person versus the other. And because we're in classrooms all the time, they see us as equals. They see us as supporting them, and they value us, we value them. And especially watching them do up lessons and so forth, and being able to be a part of that and giving them those positive kudos. And then afterwards, after the children leave, hey, I really liked that lesson that you did today. I couldn't believe about, little somebody, Johnny or whatever, really had a really difficult time, but this person really pumped them up and so forth. So talking about how we saw it, but then also giving them that positive voice to be able, and that open voice to be able to come to the table and say, these are the things that really worked out well. These are things that maybe you could help me with next time, and so forth. So again, it's that camaraderie of being around each other and being that special team.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. Well, wow, what a wealth of incredible information and some really, really powerful themes there, I think. And I don't know how everyone else reacted, but now anybody can ask any kind of follow-up question or any question at all, and you can put it in the chat or say it out loud. And you can say that you'd like any one person from the panel to answer, or for everybody. And go ahead. Who has their hand up? Oh, Janet. Oh, Janet, can you unmute?
Here we go.
There you are.
Hi, I'm Jan Govan from 123 Look at Me Early Learning Center in Chip County, Chippewa Falls. And so my question to everyone is, how are you supporting the staff monetarily? Has the beginning wages increased? Are you giving bonuses? What are you doing for that retention?
Any one of the three like to jump in first? Panelists? Lisa? Oh, Lisa's like, I see your hand now. Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
We've been giving more of the bonuses because I don't know if I can sustain the additional funds that DCF is giving us in the first place. So we did give an increase to everybody by $1 an hour. And then just to make sure that we were kind of on average to what the community has been giving to different kinds of positions and so forth like that. But also then all of the bonus, we do up different kinds of bonuses as well as COVID pay. We don't have sick time here. We have actually paid time off instead. And so I don't want somebody to say, well, I can't go to work, but I can't get paid. We've just been giving some of those funds from DCF as COVID pay or sick time if they don't have anything, because at this point in time, again, that's just showing our support for others.
Excellent. And go ahead, Abby.
We've also been using the child care counts to supplement wages so that our staff are feeling valued in the monetary sense. It's really hard, and I would highly encourage everyone to advocate for the child care counts to continue, because once that goes away at the end of the year, it's going to be very interesting to see how we're able to sustain those higher wages without raising expenses or raising the program costs for families who can't afford it as it is. The other thing we do, or at least I do here at the Y, is during summer, because I'm hiring seasonal staff and a larger amount of staff, I do recruitment bonuses, referral bonuses, and retention bonuses. So I do a midway and an end of summer bonus for those staff.
Thank you. And Corey, did you have anything different you wanted to add to that, or you're fine? Okay, thanks. And so let's go back over to, and so I hope that answered the question. A lot of talk about bonuses and using COVID pay. Lisa, is your hand still up on purpose because you want to say something again?
No,
Okay.
sorry. Nope.
No, you're just hanging out with your hand up. Okay, I got it. Let's see. I've got a Kevin Muller is asking, are there, besides surveys, what are ways that you've found are successful in keeping staff engaged? I think I heard a number of things besides surveys, but what sticks out for you all? Anybody? Panel? You don't have to raise your hand. You can just start talking.
I can go.
Okay.
Yeah. So making sure, I think it's really important to be recognizing our staff. I think that builds engagement, just like working with youth, and not recognizing just your staff member of the month. That's an easy thing to do. That's like a low hanging fruit, but recognizing our staff for even the smaller things, like, hey, I noticed that, you and so had a really great connection today. I'm really proud of you. Or, it's making them making them see that you see just the little things. We are just a bunch of big kids who are getting paid to do what we do, is what I tell our staff. And we want to be recognized just as much as those kids do. We crave that. We crave that connection and recognition. So I think that that's really crucial. And then making sure that our staff are having fun. I tell our staff all the time, if you plan a program and you think it's boring, chances are so will all the kids. So we need to make sure that we're doing fun and engaging activities that we like to do ourselves.
Yeah, it's a great answer. Thanks, Corey. And I think we'll jump to, I was really wondering this too, and thanks thanks to Courtney Hoffman for asking. This might be developed more at Corey, because I heard Corey mention onboarding a couple times. How did you develop onboarding and what does that look like, Corey? A little more detail?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first, I went through a lot of the things that we see day in and day out that we really want to focus on as staff. So like, for example, being a trauma-informed care organization, inclusion, we really want to look at de-escalation, looking at our positive behavior and support and response plan. So I created a list of key themes that we want to do. And then I looked for Boys and Girls Clubs of America has a training platform, which is great for a starting spot. It's a great thing to get your basics, which I'm sure a lot of other organizations have that. But I looked through that training and I said, okay, what's missing and how do I make this more connected to our organization, our area, what we're doing with our kids? And then I created a Google Classroom. I know there was another question about training your staff when, you know, they're in the trenches, right? So I created a Google Classroom and I just started either asking people to film themselves doing a training within our organization, asking school staff. So we have a really great collaboration with our school. Or I film myself on Zoom training our staff and then I put it into our Google Classroom. I have an onboarding plan that I have a part-time one and a full-time one, and it really focuses on making sure that our staff have about an hour to an hour and a half, if they're only part-time, of content training, and then an hour to an hour and a half of like in the trenches learning. So where they're shadowing other youth development professional staff. And then I have a checklist of what those trainees, so the youth development professional staff, should be focusing on with our new staff. And that template lasts about, I think they get fully trained in about 4 weeks with a combination of the video training and the on-the-job learning. And then they're supposed to be checking in weekly with their supervisor or daily with their supervisor for the first 2 weeks to see how training's going. And then at the end of the training, they run their own programming, and we have an evaluation process that our program director does with them to make sure that they are running their training the way we've trained them to. Or their programming, sorry, the way we've trained them to.
Yeah, wow, that sounds like a really amazing onboarding process you've created. It's really surprising how you were able to jump onto Google Classroom and then have that be a really great tool for your staff to be able to access the videos that you're just making yourselves.
Yeah, thanks. I'll say the biggest thing with that is just like updating them as they need to be updated. It's a yearly process, so you really have to set aside like a week in the beginning of the year or at some point to update these videos. So
yeah, sure. Thank you. Let me jump to this question from Laura, who asks, what does your training plan look like, especially as an after school? We set aside a training week in late August, but as with student schedules, we often don't have staff in place until October. How do y'all solve that?
I can answer that really quickly for our organization. So we do that onboarding that I've talked about, but we also felt that it was extremely important that we are closing once a month, which I know sounds like really, we don't want to close because then what do our kids do? And our parents and our families have been very understanding because I framed it in the way that we want to make sure the kids or the people who are taking care of your kids are best set up to take care of your kids. So we close on the first Wednesday of every single month, and we don't have kids that day, and it's just dedicated to staff training. And then I send out a monthly, we do that monthly, and then I also send out a monthly video training, which is usually 10 minutes, either of myself, one of our staff, or a different resource to complement that training so that they're getting an extra touch point and a reminder throughout the month. And then we also do at our staff meetings that month, mini training surrounding that.
Wow, that's like a triple reinforcement going on there. That's incredible. Anybody else want to talk about how they solve training? Because it's such a big problem people have, thinking about, I don't get staff till October, but we have this training week usually at the end of the summer. What do you, anyone else do on the panel? How do you deal with that?
So ours is a little bit, we're still kind of developing the full range of what I would like my staff to be able to receive and figuring out what works best for our program. And there is no like one right way to do it. as long as the staff are getting the information they need and you're making sure that you're hitting the requirements you need to require or you need to hit, and there's continual growth, there's no one right way to do staff training and onboarding. So right now I have a binder that is, I'm still developing it. I've got like phase 1, 2, and 3 done. So like phase 1 is when you first get them in the door and they kind of graduate into phase 2, and then they kind of graduate out of phase 2 and into phase 3. But the one that I really focus on, because we flip between camp and after school, is like our camp training, because that's when I've got essentially a week that I need to get a lot of people up to par for a lot of kids. And then I use those same concepts, and hopefully, and I've been pretty lucky, is that I retain some of those staff into the school year. So they are already have a good solid foundation and are able to implement that into then our after school programs. So that's what works for like my program right now in this current time, but that might not always work for us. And so it's a kind of continuous growth and a readjustment and change to make sure that you are meeting the staff that you do have and the program needs that you have right now, and understanding that like what might work for onboarding a 19-year-old probably not going to work for onboarding somebody who is in their 40s or 50s, and being able to adjust and figure it out with them as a partnership is really important.
Yeah, thank you, Abby. We have just a minute, and I just want to try to address two things that are hanging out there in the chat. We had one was, let's see, from Laura. How long did it take to get your current staff training, feedback, recognition in place? Are directors and supervisors in ratio regularly? So I'd like to know if there's one panel member that could do that. And the other question that's out there, and now there's another one from Beth Marie. Thanks, Beth. Do staff find the mini virtual training videos to be useful? How do you keep staff engaged during those sessions? Do you require cameras on, for example? So two separate questions. I wonder if any panelists could try to address the first one briefly.
I am in ratio every day for our after school program and for most of our schools out day programs. And the past couple of years, I've been in ratio a lot for camp, which is really, really hard, but manageable with a lot of support. But the goal is that I will not be in ratio. However, we are in a rural area. There is not a lot of staff, and it's more important to meet the family's needs and to be able to adjust and make it work than to essentially be like, no, I can't be in ratio and put my foot down. Like, I can do it. I can be in ratio and I can supervise my staff and figure it out to be able to meet those families' needs.
All right, thanks, Abby. And the second one about the virtual trainings, keeping staff engaged. I guess that's probably more for you, Corey.
Yeah, so a lot of those trainings are, they don't need to have their camera on, but there are questions that so within the Google Classroom that I've created, there are questions that they need to answer specifically related to the training. So there's like a question after each training, like, hey, tell me the 3 top things you learned from this. And then I'm constantly going in and checking. And then also, I know the question was about how long it took you to develop. I would say that it took me a good probably year to really like flush this out. Full-time training versus part-time training, what that looks like. And then honestly, it's a constant evolving process. We started out really like one of our supervisors wanted people to be trained within 2 weeks. So basically she was like, they need to be getting all these trainings done in 2 weeks. And I was like, yeah, someone sitting in a computer for 20 hours for 2 weeks sounds miserable, but we tried it because I'm all about staff voice and choice and empowerment. So we tried it and it didn't work out. So then we just had to, change it up. It's like Abby said, it's not a one size fits all. It's more of a constant communication and figuring out what works for who and how that works best. And I will say that our staff said they like hearing from our staff and the people who are in our community doing the work versus the Boys and Girls Club trainings, because that's very general and not specific to our area.
Thank you, Corey. I think we got all the questions answered in time, y'all. So I'm going to switch it right over back to Kelly. But let me just say thank you so much, panelists. That was really great. I really feel like I got a lot out of that, and I think everyone else did too. great work y'all are doing. Thanks for sharing it with us.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. I have so many notes and like lots of hand clapping, emojis and all that stuff. So we appreciate all the hard work that, everybody does, but like coming on here and telling us a little bit more. And there's a lot of bits and things that I know we're probably going to want to talk about in regionals and things like that, and dive into this a little bit more. So what does that mean? Where are we going next? So, we're going to transition now into our regional groups, and talk a little bit more and set up some times. But on the screen, you can see what our next steps are. On Wednesday, February 1st, we're going to do a regional collaborative. So that's within your region, so Southern or Northern or wherever you are, explore kind of like the landscape in that area, right? So we're talking about rural versus urban, and Abby has to be in program because there's not a lot of people, and right exactly. So it's different in every part of the state. And then in March, we're going to do some more technical one-on-one assistance, and that is more specifically with your person who's representing your region. So that being said, just a couple more quick things. We're going to send you into your regions in a group, and then the region's going to we have until about 10:15, and then we're just going to be done and move on. So we have a couple more housekeeping things we just want to make sure that you are aware of. If you need to contact the Wisconsin After School Network, there is the email address. I'm sure we'll be popping it up into the chat a little bit. But along with this regional collaborative, we also have a variety of different professional development opportunities. And if you don't know about them, let us know. We have a monthly Wisconsin After School Network month at a glance, and that like lists everything that we are offering and who it's targeted towards. There's a lot of really great sessions, and I could talk about hours about what we're doing. But if you're not on that email list that gets that with that month at a glance, let us know. You can pop your information in the chat, and we're monitoring that and say, I don't have it, or feel free to send an email at that, send an email to the email address there, and we'll get you on that list. All right, so that's wonderful. So we have that, and my next little thing I just want to make sure we are all aware of is kind of like where the different counties are and what section of the state you're in. So this is kind of a little bit of a listing. I mean, I'm sure you probably all know where you are and what county you're in and all that good stuff. But if you want a little bit more details, there it is. If you have any questions about that. And then lastly, oops, just kidding. That's another repeat, here are some of our regional facilitator contact information. We will send this out again. We will also talk about this in our region. So, but again, Sarah's out on maternity leave until early March, but we have everyone's listed there. And I do believe that is it. That's wonderful. We are at the end of the presentation. So lastly, I just want to say thank you for being here before we send you out into the regions. It is amazing that you are here. I'm excited, I know personally, to get to know my region a lot more. So I'm going to throw it over to, I believe, Rachel, are you going to throw us into our regional areas so we can start chatting?
Yeah, and Chris, who's helping us behind the scenes, is pull up our regions, and you will all select the region that you belong to. So once you click on that, it should take you out into your appropriate breakout room. So we'll all see you in those smaller groups.